Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. It's This Week in Hello Black America, or This Week in Black America. I'm your producer and co-host, Curtis Cheatham, here solo today as my partner, Brother Deshaun, has got some things he's got to do today, take care of. He's out saving the world, hopefully. But I'm glad you could join us today on This Week in Black America. Lots going to be going on. Certainly, we didn't want to leave our audience without some sort of acknowledgement of the craziness that's been going on this week in Black America. Lots going on. Even at this moment, the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're in my neck of the woods, are celebrating their big Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 59. So they're having their parade today over in Philly, which is right near my area. So there's always something going on there about that. But the big news this week for Black America, I think, probably had more to do with the halftime show. And we'll get into that a little bit more as well. Lots going on, of course, almost too much to keep track of. And This Week in Black America, they're just all the executive orders, all the differing things going on politically. We've got federal judges coming in and making decisions that the administration is seemingly ignoring. We've got an interesting sort of thing going on over in New York with the mayor and the Justice Department asking for the state, the New York State district attorneys to drop the charges basically against Eric Adams. And rather than do that, several people who've been put in power have actually decided I'd rather resign than actually drop these charges. So there's some interesting stuff going on there. I don't know if you noticed it this week, but the shadow president, Elon Musk, was holding court in the Oval Office with his kid in the office. There was some interesting conversations having to do with that as well going on during the week, and we'll go into that a little bit more. All types of things going on in Black America this week, and hopefully you'll be part of what's going on here as well. I'm solo today, so I don't expect that we're going to be going for 3 hours like sometimes Deshaun and I tend to do when the two of us get together. We may tend to get a little loquacious, a little long-winded sometimes, but that's all right. I certainly enjoy having those conversations when we get the opportunity to do so. And of course, you're welcome to join in. Anything you may have to add, we'll go into that. Now, one thing I want to, this was actually last week, obviously, last Sunday. We're doing this recap of the week at the end of the week. So there's a lot that's gone on all week long. But last Sunday, Super Bowl 59. I don't know if you're NFL fans. I've been kind of in and out on the NFL in the last few years, frankly. Ever since the whole Kaepernick thing, I did personally boycott the NFL for one full season, which wasn't bad. I enjoyed that, actually. But then, kind of made my way back. If my team's playing, I'll pay attention to that. I'm a Saints fan, being from New Orleans originally. Not much for us to root for this year. But, so I've kind of made my way back to the NFL. But the big thing that's happened in Black America this week was the halftime show. I don't know if many people even watch the big game or not. But the halftime show was all over the social media all week. You'd probably have to have been under a rock to avoid hearing something about the Kendrick Lamar presentation. And, there's all types of things. Now, I'm a man of a certain age. as I'm often times will say. And, I'm a rap fan. I have been since it came out when I was a teenager, since rap started being played in hip hop in general. But, I was an older person. So some of the new stuff that comes out now, Kendrick Lamar, I recognize his genius. But, I'm not necessarily a fan of his. But really, the presentation that he put on was just so well thought out. And I didn't get it when I watched it in real time. I didn't get everything, at least. Some of it I was like, okay, I get that. I get that. And I hear people in my age group, some of them talking about, how they couldn't understand. And I get it. There's a lot of mumble rappers these days. Not to put Kendrick in that category, but I rarely can understand in real time what some of these rappers are saying anyway. So my best friend is on Apple Music when they show the lyrics, and I can kind of follow along. So that's one aspect of it. But the imagery that Kendrick put into his halftime performance, from the, maybe the throwing a little shade type things from with the with the exes, Drake's exes. I don't get into that whole narrative of what's going on between Drake and Kendrick and whomever else has been involved in these rap beefs. But I really just thought that the way Kendrick went about presenting his halftime show was so thoughtful. It was so it was deep. There were so many layers to it. Absolutely, so many layers to it. And I'd love to hear what people are thinking. If they had thoughts about how Kendrick's presentation went, I'd certainly love to hear from you. But clearly, he put a lot of thought into that halftime performance, and I think Black America received it well. Of course, you hear on social media so many people talking about it was the worst ever. And listen, if it wasn't meant for you, go with God. If it wasn't meant for you, if you don't get it, it wasn't meant for you, and that's fine. Not everything has to be for everybody. So that's something that we need to be just aware of. It's not for everybody. But I'd love to hear if anybody had thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show. Just very, very visually stimulating. I didn't even get like the whole video games. I haven't played video games in years. So at first that kind of went over my head. Then able to see clearly the American flag or the representation of the American flag was outstanding. I like that. And you can see the division piece of the flag being divided. Certainly that is appropriate for right now. There are just so many divisions in our nation, not just from a macro, but even when you start talking about in Black America, that we seem to have some divisions even amongst ourselves. Jersey checking in, appreciate that. Top 5 saying that the show was lit, and this was one for social justice. Amen to that. Yeah, you have to kind of take a step back from what's going on and realize that in the backdrop of the Super Bowl and Kendrick Lamar and us celebrating ourselves in that way, you have backdrop, you have the 47th president doing all these things to kind of undo the progress that Black Americans have made over the last 50, 60, 70 years, whatever. And so it was, to me, it was a moment for Black America to just kind of sit back and enjoy ourselves, enjoy our own culture, kind of relish what we bring to the table. And if everybody doesn't get it, that's fine. That's fine if everybody doesn't everybody's not going to get the message. So from that regard, it's fine. But I really enjoyed the halftime show. I went back and watched it a couple times just to make sure I was seeing things properly. Give me an idea of what you thought as far as that was going on. Another thing that happened in this week, and maybe you noticed it in Black America, lots of protests. You know, you're starting to see people reacting to what the 47th president is doing. He and his shadow president are doing, and people are reacting to it. You know, they even in my little neck of the woods, I went out to the store one day last week, and I didn't even realize that there were people out with signs right here down in Burlington County, New Jersey. Are you kidding me? And they were all protesting different things. There's just so many things going on. And again, I believe that's by design, that, this administration wants to throw so many things at us at such a rapid pace that it's difficult for us to keep track of what's actually going on, what's actually happening, and what the real end goal is. And I think I saw it this week. It seems like all the barriers are being removed. If you didn't notice, the Consumer Protection Agency, an agency specifically set up to guard consumers against fraud, against being taken advantage of, any of those sort of things that if your banking institution or someone does something that doesn't seem fair to you, the Consumer Protection Agency is the people that you go to get some sort of relief. And as I understand it, this agency has returned millions, if not billions of dollars to consumers because of unfair business practices by various, corporate entities and that sort of thing. So this is a very important protection that's in place for people, and we're seeing this administration just completely dismantle it. Now, the part that you may be missing is that most of these things, most of these entities that are being targeted at this point, keep your eyes open on that piece, because several of these agencies that the president has unleashed the Musk on are places that or entities that have had beef with Elon Musk in the past. Either they are blocking him from doing things that he's wanted to do. They find him in some cases. They have, he's got cases that are being held in front of these different agencies and things of that nature. And now all of a sudden, we're seeing him dismantle those. So he had a problem with the FAA. The FAA chief ends up stepping down just prior to the inauguration. And then we have this swath of airplane incidents. We had the one in DC, one in Philadelphia. There's been other smaller type of aircraft incidents that have happened since this administration took power. And the fact of the matter is that we need to be looking to the fact that these agencies have been kind of seeking to corral Elon Musk and Tesla and some of its other companies. They're attempting to corral these people into some sort of fairness, to some sort of adherence to the law. And yet now that Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, has access to the top spot in American politics, it just raises some serious conflict of interest questions that each American, I really think, should be asking themselves in the moment. Is it right that you give this much power to someone just because they had the money to pay for this access? And that should be worrying us. I heard one thing this week, and I haven't been able to chase it down completely yet. But one of the executive orders that the 47th president undid was basically allowing political operators, politicians, to profit from things like insider trading. It essentially took the guardrails completely off as to how much money they can make, how much oversight there is to sort of decide whether or not what they're doing is fair or not. It's a really, really crazy time. I've grown up in an America where, the rule of law kind of prevails. And it seems like that's not the case anymore. Even in the case of, you see you see these orders like birthright citizenship, for example. He puts that in place. Immediately, somebody goes to court, gets that stayed, gets a pause from a federal judge on that. But the problem is that if you expect that a convicted felon is actually going to follow the law, that seems to be problem. We seem to be looking at this as if this is a normal administration. And, under normal circumstances, if a federal judge says stop doing this, most people stop. But you've got the richest guy in the world, another wealthy guy running the country, who think they're above the law. And, you got these judges saying, wait, you can't do this, but yet the funding isn't reappearing. People are not being allowed to get the USAID funding, for example, even though judges overruled what the administration was trying to do. They're not actually following through. And what we're going to find out, I believe, is that there's really no mechanism to make the president do these things. And I know that in a previous episode, Deshaun and I were kind of kidding around with who gonna check me, boo? From the Housewives franchise. But that's just it. That's just it, that there is nothing that apparently we're going to be able to do, because he's going to just keep doing what he's doing, which is sowing, I wanted to say sowing discord among the brothers. That's just me and Deshaun talking offline about certain things. But he's really just sowing chaos. He's just at a time where, people are worried, and rightfully so. People losing their jobs, people who've been career, not politicians, but career civil service workers and things of that nature. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in and decides, I'm getting rid of all y'all. And, that can be a scary feeling. I've heard stories recounted of people that moved, say, cross country, thinking they had a federal job in hand. And then lo and behold, once the results of this past election came out, they were found left holding the bag. And from that perspective, you think you got a job here, you moved, uprooted your family, moved maybe in some cases across the country or a great distance, and come to find out that the new administration is not going to honor your employment request. So these are the kind of things that we're seeing, and it's frightening on some levels. Those of us who follow Christ, I think, have a certain amount of peace, understanding in whom our deliverance, who holds our deliverance. But I think from the average person on the street, they need to be worried. They need to be worried about what's going on. Hello, fam. Gumbo in the house. I've seen that name on previous previous shows. So I appreciate those of you who are continuing to check in with us. I know this isn't our typical show today. Nola in the house. Let's go Saints. One tie into of course, the Eagles celebrating today is that my team, the New Orleans Saints, get their offensive coordinator. So I don't know if that's going to be a good move or not, but that's my full circle moment with the celebrating the Eagles, but at the same time poaching them for their offensive coordinator. Hopefully, he can help get my team back on track. But I don't want to get sidetracked. Have folks been following what's going on with right across the border here from Jersey, over in New York City? Full disclosure, now I don't know Eric Adams personally, but I grew up with like some of his younger brothers. We were in chorus groups together and things like that. So I don't know him personally, but in my own personal opinion, I don't think he's done a great job as mayor. Of course, to those who may not be aware, he had just recently, I think back in maybe September, had been indicted for basically some dirty dealings with the country of Turkey. And I guess he had been convicted, in fact, of doing some side deals or some underhanded deals with the country of Turkey. But now, and we've seen Mayor Adams go to Mar-a-Lago and talk to the 47th president. And, there's some speculation about why he was doing that. But now in the last couple of days, we're seeing what's happened. I think it was on Monday of this week that the Justice Department actually made a request that basically we drop all the charges against Eric Adams. All right. The funny thing about it is this, or not funny. The ironic thing about it is that they dropped the charges in such a way as that they can be revisited at a future time. I forget the exact terminology. I'm not a lawyer, but I think they did it without prejudice, meaning that they could come back and refile at another time. So the bottom line of that is that you have the mayor of New York who is under indictment, but for a period of time, they're going to basically remove that indictment, move that specter of prosecution away from him, and allow him to continue to run the city of New York. But it gives them license, the Justice Department, to refile those charges at a different time. Now, do you see how that could be problematic in that? So if Eric Adams plays ball with the 47th president and his administration with regard to immigration enforcement and those sort of things, then he's fine. These charges just, they don't get refiled or anything. However, if he doesn't play ball, the specter of those charges being refiled is a very real one. So essentially, the president of the United States has the mayor of the largest city in the country by, I don't want to say what I'm thinking, but he's got him in a kind of a chokehold. You either play ball and do what we're asking you to do, or potentially these charges get refiled again in November. It's a 10-month stay of execution, if you will, as far as what he's got going on. So do people see the problem in that? The fact of the matter is that the mayor of New York is in a position where he has to bow down to this administration if he wants to make sure that further legal action isn't taken against them. That screams conflict of interest. And even the funny part and the heroic part really about this is that there have been Republican attorneys general who've been put in place, and at least one of them put in place by Trump, at least on a temporary basis, that have refused to drop these charges. And instead of actually dropping the charges, chose to resign rather than do something that was so obviously against the law or shady at best, at worst. So yeah, that's just kind of an interesting one to me. I want to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, that should be raising a lot of people's eyebrows, I would think, to understand that the president is basically able to be the puppeteer for the city, the mayor of New York at this point, because he's got that leverage over him. And that's never a good place to be. Who's this? Indigo. I don't want to mess up your last name there. Indigo. Remember the 24-hour shutdown and not buying anything from September 27th until 28th. I definitely had that on my list. I actually just got that this morning from my line brother, sent it over to me. And I'm definitely going to get into that in a little bit. But yes, there is a call for a boycott, a one-day boycott on February 28th. Not to buy anything, don't go out, don't buy any fast food, no online shopping, and obviously the point of this is to show an economic impact. What we've always known here in America is that the powers that be don't respond until it hits them in the pocket. And I've certainly espoused this before, that this country is our God is capitalism in this country. It is money, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. And so you got to kind of follow the dollars. So this is an effort that is gaining some traction. Again, I'll just go through it a little bit later with you all, where we are seeing a call for us just to not purchase anything. So, I mean, we might as well go into it now. They're calling it Turn It Off. Okay, that's a good name, I guess. Turn It Off. I feel like I should have Teddy Pendergrass in the back. Turn it off! Sorry, that was probably a terrible rendition of Teddy. No disrespect to the great Teddy Pendergrass. But that's what they're calling it, is Turn It Off. So from February 28th, 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. on the 28th of February. So the entire day of February 28th, the last day of Black History Month. Don't make any purchases. Don't shop online or in store. No Amazon, no Walmart, no Best Buy, nowhere. No McDonald's. And this is real simple, folks. Go out and get your food the day before. Actually plan a day in advance on what you're going to eat. Be more intentional about what you're going to do as far as spending money that day. If you want to go out to have a meal with your partner, your spouse, what have you, just do it the next day. Do it on the following day or the day before. I mean, we're asking a sacrifice of one day. Don't use your credit cards or your debit cards for anything. Don't go to any major retailers. If you know you're going to need gas, go get it the day before. Only thing that you should be spending money on this day is just basic essentials. And if you're doing so, be intentional. Support local businesses. Support Black-owned businesses. There are all types of resources available to us now, where you can find out where Black communities are and where Black businesses are. Um, One I know of is an app called Blap. There are others where you can find out where Black-owned businesses are. So let's be intentional about how we spend our dollars. And guaranteed, if Black folks en masse withdraw their dollars or withhold their dollars, even for one day, it's going to be noticeable. It's going to be very noticeable because we are consumers. To the tune of over $1.8 trillion a year, the Black community spends on goods and services in this country. That's a major, major portion of what's going on. So I'm going to encourage us to participate. February 28th is Turn It Off, a boycott, an economic boycott for 24 hours. And I'm sure you'll be seeing more about that because, like I said, I just got this morning. And then I want to thank Indigo for bringing this up today again. And I did have it on my list of things to discuss today. So thank you for bringing that to the fore. And listen, folks, let's find out. Let's support what people are doing. I know you may have heard us on a previous show. We talked about Ania Holloway and the Black Project 2025. And now, but that's the kind of thing. We're seeing people that are already doing something on that front. And yet I'm hearing people on social media call for a response to Project 2025. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, we already have a response. We already have somebody that's done a significant portion of work to set up a response to Project 2025. And we just need to get behind it. We just need to put our energy behind it. Go seek out the Black Project 2025 page. It's on Discord, I believe. And they are leading, they've led the charge. They put out a plan. They put together an infrastructure. And we're always calling for something to be done. And yet, when it gets done, far too often we don't get behind it and support it. So yeah, that's something to be considered. We put together these plans. Now, you'll see the scroller here at the bottom of the page, and this is something I generally leave to my brother Deshaun to talk about. But we've been pushing our rep2025.org plan that you can find on that website, rep2025.org, a layout of our plan to repatriate our people to back to the continent of Africa, to the country of Liberia specifically. Now, you can criticize if you'd like. I mean, that's what some people do best. They're more wanting to be critical than anything else. But the fact of the matter is that the visionary behind that, my brother Deshaun, has put together a plan. We put it in writing. It's there where you can see it. So whether you like it, dislike it, disagree with it, what have you, the work has been done to put this plan together, and it's up to us as to how much energy we put behind it to support that. And we've got things going on if we can just figure out a way to kind of bring these together. We have a vision for bringing Black media companies together, and you'll hopefully be hearing more about that as time goes on. But absolutely, we have some people that are out here doing things, and we just need to kind of get on board and support these things. So that was a big one. Again, thank you, Indigo, for bringing that. What do we got? Reverse petition protests. Okay, so that's another reverse petition protest Indigo brings up. Again, sending your representatives emails or snail mail or calling. There's an app called I believe it's called Five Calls. app that I remember the late great Joe Madison used to be pushing. That's a way of, if you're interested in contacting your local officials about any kind of issues, that's a tool that will allow you to get in contact with them. And as Indigo is espousing here, that you want to send your representatives, even if they're Democratic, especially if they're Republican. You want to reach out to your elected leaders and let them know your displeasure. I've heard reports of like the congressional switchboard or what have you has just been inundated with thousands and thousands of calls where, normally you'd only get maybe 10, 20 calls a day. We're getting thousands of calls to these representatives because people are reacting to what's going on. Thank you, Gumbo Gumbo, for appreciating my Teddy Pendergrass Turn It Off rendition. But yeah, call your Congress people. Reach out to your elected officials. Let them know if you're displeased with what's going on, if you're displeased with the direction that America is going in, and that's important. Let your voice be heard. And I know, listen, I was just talking with my brother Deshaun a day or so ago. I, like a lot of Black people, would love to be disengaged at this point and just go sip my tea, my coffee, and because we did our part in this last election. We've talked about it, that we had such a solid response in the Black community of supporting Kamala Harris, and we lost, right? Supposedly. I'll leave that for another day. But so now a lot of Black people I know are just kind of tuned out. And frankly, if it were not for this show and my obligation to kind of be up to date on what's going on in the community, I too would be home chilling. I not watching any news, not following what's going on. And I get it. I get how people would be in that place where they just want to disengage rather than subject themselves to the foolishness that's going on. But to some extent, we have to, and that's why we thought it was important to actually keep our show going today, because we know a lot of folks, they may be completely disengaging, and this may be the only place where they get some sort of news coverage or some sort of at least awareness of what's going on in this administration and what's happening. There are lots of things going on, and again, it's by design. It's a chaos agent, and it allows things to go on in the background without you really noticing. If you're distracted by what's going on over here, you may not notice what's going on over here. And I'm going to continue to find this exact coverage that I was looking at. But what you're seeing is that this administration is dismantling safeguards that have been put in place over years and years to protect consumers, to ensure that those that are leading us are doing so with a strong moral compass, that they're not in it just to fill their own pockets. And those sort of restrictions, those sort of protections have been removed, and you're seeing it happen systematically, and that's by design. And people, The Consumer Protection Agency being removed is a big deal. Now, people are all in as far as wanting to streamline government, to remove inefficiency from government, to remove wasteful spending. But when you see where they are targeting things, the USAID, the Consumer Protection Agency, things of those nature, the FAA, all of these are agencies that had beef with Elon Musk prior to the election. Just think about that for a moment. Just think about the fact that all of these agencies that they're going after now are agencies with whom Elon Musk had particular problems with. They were fining him. They were stopping him, blocking him from doing different things that he was trying to do that seemed unfair, that were being blocked. Now he went out and paid $250,000 or whatever it was to buy the presidency. And now you see him having unprecedented access, and indeed these places actually being dismantled. Let's face it. If we were going to start with, if we were really trying to eliminate inefficiency in government, you wouldn't start with the USAID, which is less than 1% of the budget, right? You'd start with the military budget, or because that's the biggest part of the budget, right? That's where most of the money goes, and yeah. So it's disturbing. Somebody puts a comment here, and this is what I was. This is Kenyatta Murphy. She seems to be a lovely woman. Those of you know. But meanwhile, corporate lobbyists are toasting their victory because there's no referee. Exactly. That's exactly it. That's one of the laws, and one of the things that I noticed this week is that one of the protections that was removed was allowing lobbyists to be able to go from being a lobbyist to go into a political position. There used to be some sort of time period that you had to wait before you could go into politics if you were a lobbyist. And one of the protections that was removed this week is the fact that you don't have to, you can go straight from being a lobbyist to go serving in Congress and those sort of things. And yeah, the game is rigged. The game is rigged against the American people. And it's rigged. This is the point that most of us are we think this is a black and white thing. It is a rich and poor thing, and it always has been. And the sooner we realize that, is that poor white folks and poor black folks have far more in common than they're willing to admit. And the whole thing about this whole black and white thing was put up to keep division among us. Those of us who believe that we are Bible readers and things, there's a concept that a house divided you can't serve two masters. The house can't be divided. And what we're seeing is that this country has been divided, and we're finding more and more ways every day to divide us and make us look at each other with disdain, with hate. As long as they can keep us hating each other, they will keep us from focusing on what the real enemy is. And that is this short list of people who want to control most of, if not all of, the resources. Why is it that you think that such a small percentage of the wealth is concentrated in the top 10% in this country? While most of us, the rest of us, struggle day to day, paycheck to paycheck. Some of those people that are those federal government workers, those civil servants, they're going to be missing a paycheck, and frankly, they're probably not going to know what to do. A lot of people are within one or two paychecks of being bankrupt. and not the kind of bankrupt that the 47th president does, where he keeps, he's done it a few times. I guess he's a good person to ask about that. Top five, yeah, the game is absolutely rigged. You can go from being a money-grabbing lobbyist to holding government position. That's it. That very well stated. Thank you for bringing that to the fore. The game is rigged. I don't want to sound like Bernie Sanders. The game is rigged, but he's right in that regard, and people are not realizing it. One thing I want to get to that I don't know if you missed this week as well is the president and the shadow president holding court today, earlier this week in the Oval Office. And I thought that was strange to begin with. Why is Elon Musk even in the Oval Office? I mean, let's keep it 100. What purpose does he's not been elected by anyone. The fact that he can have him and his kids in the Oval Office just kind of hanging out. Did you notice the other day with I think it was the Indian the Prime Minister of India, or the President of India, I'm not sure which, was sitting down with Elon Musk. And Elon Musk's kids were all sitting there in the room. Presumably, this is some sort of, I guess, quasi-official government meeting between quote-unquote leaders, because Elon Musk is not an elected leader. Should I remind everyone that? He is not an elected leader, but yet he's sitting there holding court with leaders of the fifth largest economy in the world, and nobody sees a problem with this. This is not something that concerns you. It should concern you. It should concern you. But the part I want to get to, because I thought it was funny, and I have to find ways to laugh in these times. Anybody notice Elon and his son in the Oval Office? Now, I heard this and I've seen it run a couple times. I'm no expert. But the funny thing to me was Elon Musk's son apparently making some disparaging remarks about the 47th president, like right in his face, basically telling him, you're not the president. You need to get out of here. Some of the other things that he supposedly said were a little more vulgar. I don't know how old that kid is, but the kind of language that has been shown or been attributed to him, because I didn't actually hear it. He seemed to be cussing out the 47th president, basically. The point is this. I don't know how old that kid is. Maybe, I don't know, 5, 6. I'm not necessarily great at figuring out ages like that. But the fact of the matter is that whatever the kid was saying in the background, that's something that he's heard. He's repeating something that he's heard. This isn't an original thought by a 6, 7-year-old kid or 5-year-old kid, whatever it is. He's not coming up with this thought on his own. This is things that he's mimicking. These are things that he's heard probably around the dinner table. He's probably heard his dad refer to 47 as not the real president and that he needs to get out of here. That's not something that the kid that age would come up with on its own. So that he's hearing this from somewhere. And now, I don't know if the 47th president realizes what a farcical figure he looks like. And he tries to portray strength. He tries to put himself out there as this strong individual, yet you're kind of getting punked by a 5-year-old. you know, I probably won't go too far down. D's not here to rein me in when I go down this road. So I'll try and self-police myself in that regard. But isn't it weird that supposedly the most powerful person in the world, the most powerful leader in the world, is kind of being taken to task by a 5-year-old? And don't, I don't know. He may be 5, 6. How old is Elon Musk's son? I don't think I care enough to look it up, frankly. But he's a young kid, and he was making fun of the president, the duly elected president. Now, that in and of itself, I had no problem with it. But the problem is this, is that sooner or later, is the president going to realize that he is not projecting strength? He's trying to stoke fear into people, trying to just kind of distract people, for sure. This is all about our president making himself wealthier. And his co-president wealthier. We've had the wool pulled over our eyes now for a long time, but it seems that quite a large part of the electorate just doesn't care, right? Because we still haven't seen Donald Trump's tax returns from the first time he ran, right? Now, over 8 years ago. He made up some mess about he was under audit. He'd be happy to show it. We still haven't seen his taxes. We still don't know who's paying the 47th president. We still have questions from his first term as how his son-in-law was paid $2 billion from the Saudis and why. What was that for? The game for this president is not to help you and I. And you should not be confused by that. He's not here to help you or I. The middle class is not something that I believe the 47th president spends very much time worrying about. He's trying to fatten his pockets, and he's making a way where he can do so without repercussion. The Supreme Court has given him carte blanche as far as being able to do what he wants in any official capacity as president and not be held legally responsible. He's removing all of the parameters, all of the guardrails, all the protections that have been put in place to protect the American citizens over the years. And now, within a matter of weeks, less than a month, he is basically taking proactive action to dismantle things that have protected us for years. Who are you going to go to now when you're getting charged exorbitant return check fees? Or if someone's double billing you on your billing for some utility or something. And normally you'd have someone to go and protect your interest. Those things are being dismantled. When you think you're going to be able to go to court, who's going to care? Who's going to see? Who's going to care? No, there's nobody there to enforce what laws that remain. So you can't say, we're not going to be able to say, oh, that's illegal anyway. Who's going to check me? Who's gonna check this president? And I think that the only people that are going to be able to check him ultimately are the people themselves. We're starting to see more and more responses. The Democrats are holding these town halls, impromptu town halls. We're seeing 20,000 people show up to town halls in various places across the country. We're seeing impromptu protests come up, and people just showing up out of the blue in the cold. This is winter months here for most of the country. It's cold out, and yet people are galvanizing and going out to protest what's going on. So there are people that are aware, but I think we as Americans need to, first of all, get more educated about what's going on, not let these things go. We can't completely pull ourselves out because we've still got a vested interest in what goes on in this country. Now, I know there's certainly many of us that we're hoping will choose and be able to leave this country and repatriate to our own lands back on the continent of Africa. But I know that there are people that are going to leave people behind here, and there are going to be those who have our elders that may still be here and still be living, parents, what have you, that we're going to want to feel like we need to protect them. But you should really consider now being the time. If you've ever thought about ever leaving this country, now is maybe not a bad time. I point you to the rep2025.org website. We've put together a plan that we're planning to put together or present to this administration as a way to repatriate 1 million Black people from America back to the continent of Africa, back to Liberia, with subsidies, with support, military support, things of that nature. And listen, I know what people are thinking to some degree. This president's not going to give you anything. Our job is to ask, right? We need to make the request known, and let God give the increase. And if you know nothing else about what we've been doing and what our true north is on this show is, we follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. We believe that this is something, that a message that's been given for us to give to our people, and that's what we're doing. You know, you may not get it, you may not believe it, you may not be able to buy into it at this point, but certainly we've always asked you to confirm these things with God, to pray on them if you are a spiritual person, and to just watch. There are things going on that have spiritual implications right now. And I'm not the person to necessarily go into all that, but I know that we are in a time where things that are spoken about in that the Bible that we claim to follow as a country, there are things in there that are happening now that we should be aware of. And if you're not aware, you're going to get caught sleeping. And we don't want any of our people to get caught sleeping. That's why we're keeping woke. We're keeping the word woke active and being awake, because we know that there are things that are not designed for us to profit. They're things that are not designed for us to succeed, and but they're happening to us. And if we're not aware of them, they're going to catch us by surprise. So keep your eyes open, be aware of what's going on, and what's going on around you, because there are implications. There are implications. So just a couple of more things here. I knew I wasn't going to fill up 3 hours today. We generally shoot for about an hour and a half. And as you all know, that if you've been following us, that that takes on a life of its own, and and the next thing you know, we're 2-3 hours in, and that's fine. I love talking to my brother, love engaging with our audience, and hearing what you folks have to say. We are the non-MAGA. Where are the non-MAGA Republicans? That's a great question. That's a great question. Because this is not the same. This is not your mother and father's Republican and Democratic Party, right? This is this is not the Republican Party that you grew up with or that you were accustomed to. This is a MAGA Republican, and it's more cult-like than that of a political party. I'm not affiliated with a political party. I'm an unaffiliated, independent voter, independent-minded voter. But I'm also one that leads with compassion, right? I follow Christ, and Christ calls us to care for those, even the least of these. And so it makes it so hard to understand why these folks are so anxious to get rid of the undocumented, the aliens, if you will. And the Bible talks about the fact that be aware when you're entertaining strangers, because people have entertained angels and not known it. You don't know who these people are that are being brought to your shores, that are asking for compassion and things like that. And yet you want to just turn them away. So it should be somewhat depressing for those of us who claim to be followers of Christ to see what's going on, to see the way the alien, and I'm using quotes in that because these people aren't aliens. They're not from another country. They're not from another planet. They're from another country, another part of this earth. And if the truth be told, frankly, their problems with their country probably, if you trace it back, has something to do with either the American or European colonial powers probably messing something up in their country, which makes them want to flee to a different country. And so that's neither here nor there. I thank you all for joining in. I wanted to make sure that I got on today. I know that Brother Deshaun was off saving the world today, and that's great. Reminder, gentlemen, if you have ladies in your lives, today is the day set aside to celebrate love, better known as Valentine's Day. If you haven't gotten anything for your wife or partner, you may want to take care of that, just because it makes life a little easier. If you've taken the proper steps to show love to those that you care about. So I don't know if Brother Deshaun is doing some big Valentine's Day surprise or saving the world or doing some other things, but I wish him the best in what he's doing. I want to thank the audience for joining, putting up with me rambling for this period of time. I don't want us to forget that the blackout, what do we call it? Turn it off. The turn it off boycott coming up. We'll have another week probably to bring that up before it actually comes in. So hopefully next week when we come back in This Week in Black America, we'll even maybe have some more information about what's going on with that. keep an eye on what's going on in the world. You don't have to engage with the mainstream news media, because in a lot of ways, the mainstream media is all pretty much controlled by the same few people. So you have to be more intentional about where you're getting your information. There are some agencies that are actually real good news agencies that will give you the facts and not some sort of slanted opinion piece, and allows you to make up your own minds. And that's what we need more of: people who have the intellectual ability to think through these things critically and try and understand what they foretell. So that's important. And we thought it important to kind of keep you up to date on what's been going on, because I know many of us are not getting news from our normal, what you would consider normal news cycles, so or news places. So keep your eyes open, seek understanding, seek information from trusted sources, verify what you're seeing on social media, because there's some stuff that's just being just being promulgated that is not necessarily true. So check your sources. There's always places like well, I don't even want to push them because I'm not sure what their angle is either. But there are places, we've got these mini computers in our hands. You can investigate near everything these days with just a couple of keystrokes. So take advantage of the power that you have in your hand to verify this information. Take a few minutes to research things that you're hearing, and try and understand what the end game might be. And if you are a follower of Christ, invite counsel from the Holy Spirit. Talk about it with your friends who you trust as far as their ability to think critically. I hope most of us have people that we can go to, that we can discuss these things and get a deeper understanding, and be able to discuss them in a safe place, yet gaining an understanding, right? Gaining wisdom, knowledge. These are all things that we should strive to get. Wisdom, understanding, knowledge. Understand what's going on in the world around you. You don't have to be completely immersed in it, but you should have some awareness. I'm not saying anybody else check in. Oh yeah, happy wife, happy life. Okay. What's the one that I usually subscribe to? Happy spouse, happy house. That's a more equitable way of looking at that. We, I know that we tend to cater to the ladies on days like this, but there can be some reciprocation, ladies. You can, if you've got a partner that takes care of you, that loves you and shows you love in the way that you need it, there's nothing wrong with you expressing appreciation for that as well. So happy spouse, happy house. That means both of us need to be happy, for happiness to reign. So that's This Week in Black America. There's certainly some other things that we certainly could have talked through. I would have benefited from being able to bounce some of these things off of my partner. But hopefully you got something from it, that at least you can go out and look around this week and be aware of, so that you know what's going on. You don't have to get all deep into it, but you should be aware. You should be aware, right? Because this is a time where things are happening around you. If you aren't having conversations with your children, to let them know what kind of times we're in, that they may be seeing a regression, because our kids are going to have to deal with stuff that we never had to deal with, right? Because the generation before us stood up and fought for civil rights and things like that, and it made us, frankly, it probably softened us up a little bit because we didn't have to fight for those things. Now we're seeing children that are being born now where they're going to have to fight for rights that we thought were settled. Things that we thought were our right to vote, our right to assemble, free speech. You're going to see attacks on things that we thought were long settled. So we have to make sure that we are making sure our children are prepared. We are making sure that those that we care about have the information and are prepared to take action. I heard somebody talking about you need a go bag. And you're seeing it play out in places like California where, obviously over the last month or two, they've had the fires, but it serves as a practical example is that, sometimes these people had to leave very quickly, right? Without necessarily having the opportunity to go through the house and gather things. So I know this isn't biblical, but it is. It actually is in a way biblical. It doesn't say this specifically, but if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And that is a biblical concept of being ready. And we as Black folks need to adhere to that now, probably more than ever. Stay ready, stay woke, stay aware of what's going on around us, because there are lots of things that are not meant for your that are not meant to serve you. But they're going on nonetheless. So, brother Michael Street says hello, brother Deshaun. He's not here with us today, of course, but I'll pass on the message, brother, to let you know that he was missed, and indeed he was. Indeed he was, and we'll look forward to getting back together with you all again next week on This Week in Black America. If you're hearing things, reach out to us during the week. Reach out to us either on the rep2025.org site. You can reach out to us on the YouTube page or the Facebook page, or send us an email. Any number of ways you can reach out to us, and we love interacting with our audience. We love the community that we've been building here. This forum is great because it provides that real-time feedback that I think people can appreciate. It's like being on stage as opposed to being a movie actor. You get real-time reactions from on a Broadway stage, as opposed to if you're an actor where you make movies, you've got to wait months and months to get a reaction to the work that you've already done. So this is a great way for us to interact and stay connected with our folks. And we really appreciate you. Hope that you appreciate the work that we've been doing to try and keep you informed about what's going on in Black America, and the message that we're trying to bring to you. We hope you appreciate it. So with that being said, I'm going to give us all a little break. Hopefully we'll spend some time with our significant others today, or just spreading love, right? If you don't have a significant other, just go out of your way to spread love to someone that you see. And it doesn't even need to be someone that you even necessarily know, right? There was a song, What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love. I'm showing my age again. But I do believe that that is what we need right now. And I love all of you. I thank you for joining us on This Week in Black America. Hope that you've heard something that stimulates you to not only research and investigate more about these things, but that you'll come back and join us again. Each Friday at noon, we'll be doing this live stream for the foreseeable future. Hope you will join us again next week, and we'll talk again about that blackout that's going on, and hopefully you get engaged with that and support this effort to flex our economic muscles, if you will, in this time. So that's it for me. Thank you for joining This Week in Black America. We'll see you next week, 12 noon, next Friday. Hope you'll join us then. This Week in Black America.